Hello, welcome. I'm May Chen. I'm an editor at HarperCollins, and I grew up on a steady diet of inappropriate books and TV, which makes me feel like my whole life has prepared me for this very moment, which is to be the moderator of the Best New York Comic-Con 2014 panel, Buffy will always kick ass. This is amazing. Anyway, we have a lot of topics to discuss, so without further ado, let me introduce you to our esteemed panelists. And we're going to start to my immediate left. Amber Benson co-wrote and directed the animated... Goodman for the BBC, do and then novelized the series in 2 books for Random House. Her first solo novel, Death's Daughter, was published by Penguin in 2009 with a children's book for Simon Schuster called The New Rich Academy to follow in the fall of 2010. As an actress, Benson spent 3 seasons as Tara McClay on the cult show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She has also written, produced, and directed 3 feature films. Her new novel, The Witches of Echo Park, will be available in January 2015 from Penguin. Sniegoski is the author of more than 24 novels for adults, teens, and children. His teen fantasy YA series Fallen was adapted into a trilogy of monstrously successful TV movies by ABC Family Channel. The author's first adult novel, A Kiss Before the Apocalypse, developed into a series of novels about the character Remy Chandler. As a comic book writer, Sniegoski's work includes Stupid Rat Tales, a prequel miniseries, The International Head Phone. Sniegoski and Christopher Golden also wrote the graphic novel BPRD Hollow Earth, a spin-off from Hellboy. Sniegoski was born and raised in Massachusetts, where he still lives with his wife Leanne and their dog Herbie. At night, when the lights are dim and the creepy crawlies scuttle through the shadows, TV author Hilary Monahan throws words at a computer. A denizen of Massachusetts and an avid gamer, she's most often found locked in a dark room, killing internet zombies or corralling basset hounds. Her first novel, Mary the Summoning, will be published by Disney Hyperion fall of 2014. Goodman is the author of many titles, including Life Within Ravencliff. She has been nominated for the Impact Award twice, the Simon & Schuster Mary Higgins Clark Award, the Nero Wolfe Award, and was awarded the 2003 Hammett Prize. She lives in New York's Hudson Valley. DeCandido is an American science fiction and fantasy writer and musician who works on comic books, novels, role-playing games, and video games, including numerous media tie-ins for properties such as Star Trek, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Doctor Who, Supernatural, Andromeda, Farscape, Leverage, Spider-Man, X-Men, and Sleepy Hollow. Best-selling author of more than 40 books for young readers, including the picture book Library Line, illustrated by Kevin Hawkes, the picture book Big Moon Mike, illustrated by Scott Lagoon, and the middle grade fantasy novels The Dragons of Trillian and The Princess of Trillian. Her most recent book is her first young adult novel, Evil Librarian, a funny, creepy, paranormal, musical theater, horror, romance adventure about which Kirk has said the spirit of Buffy is alive and kicking in this bloody debut for teens. Snappily narrated, tightly plotted, and generally just right. Her next book, coming out in March 2015, will be the picture book Marilyn's Monster, illustrated by the wonderful Matt Thielen. Michelle also works as a freelance editor and writing teacher. She lives in Brooklyn, New York. Okay, so let's just get started because, like I said, we have a lot of fun things to talk about. And the first question I'm going to have for our wonderful panelists is that Buffy the Vampire Slayer has been off the air now for over a decade, and can you really say, I know, although it does live on in graphic novels, right? Amazing. But we're not going to talk about those, because otherwise this could be all day long. And also...
And they're kicking us out of the room in 40 minutes.
So can you really say that Buffy Summers has impacted how you write, specifically the way you write your female protagonists? And if so, how? We'll start with Amber this time.
How did I know she was going to start with Amber?
Always with you.
like thrown into that world on the like production end of it, and that totally changed my life. But as a watcher of the show, you know, he really sort of subverted the whole idea of this sort of young vacuous cheerleader going into a dark alley and getting destroyed and turning it on its head and created this really powerful, strong woman who, even if she wasn't sure what her destiny 100% was willing to go on the journey and find herself and save the world. So of course, spending all that time with Joss and with Buffy herself, and not even talking about how awesome, Sarah is awesome as a person on her own, but like with the character Buffy, but spending all that time with her, of course it impacts you, it changes you, and makes you want to write amazing female characters.
Tom, can you speak to that a little bit?
What's interesting about the Buffy stuff is the fact that at the time that it was airing, I think was that yeah, I think that the whole idea of a strong female character was just starting to get a role in comics. And I think Joss just did such an amazing job of showing you how to do it right that it was like earth-shaking. It was kind of like, wow, this could be really cool. If we do this correctly, if we don't make her just a sexy vampire character in a bathing suit, we can go that next step and actually make it a character that people will give a crap. So I think that's the main thing that I got from the show is the fact that it really showed me as a writer that strong female characters could be something really fabulous. Because again, as a guy, I think you have a tendency to always lean towards what you feel strong with. So, monsters punching each other was my strong suit. But this was kind of like, well, maybe I'll give this a shot.
Right. I also love that, as you said, there was no skimpy outfits with Buffy. It's interesting. She's sexy, Lauren, without having to go.
I got in trouble a lot when I was writing Mackerel because I kept putting her clothes. My editor would say, no. Take the trench coat off.
Great. Hillary?
I think the thing that's great about Buffy is she's a multi-dimensional character. Meaning, yeah, she goes out and she kicks some serious ass. But beyond that, she's got levels. I mean, you see the tragedy when her mother dies. You see the loyalty of she passes the Bechdel, guys, because she's got Willow, she's got Tara, she's got all of these really, really amazing relationships. And I think previous to the show, when you watched TV and you watched teen-focused television, you might have seen girls portrayed as tough and severe and awesome, but you didn't really get that softer side of Sears. And I think Buffy did a great job of balancing that, especially with her job and her interpersonal relationships and romantic relationships. So that's what I took away from it, is that it's great that you go out and stake a vampire, but you also have to be human too.
That's good.
I got one right.
You're done.
Especially when I turned to YA, was that she was a teen character who could go dark, and she could fail, she could go through really terrible things, and she could give up and run away and be a waitress. She didn't die, but she still came back. And that I felt when I started writing young adult literature, I thought it gave me that permission to make the character in my book have her dark side and still have her strong side. And also, I think the importance of friendship, that's something that just stayed with me when I started writing young adults.
I started writing fiction in the mid-90s, which in terms of genre television was pretty much a golden age for strong female characters. Besides Buffy, not to mention Willow and Tara and Faye, on Buffy you also had Xena, you had Gabrielle, you had Nikita, you had Erin Sun, you had Kira Nerys, you had Susan Ivanova, all of them, that was all mid-90s. And these were some really, really great characters. And what I particularly like about Buffy, relating to what you said, Carol, was this is a hero, and it's one of the reasons why I like Spider-Man as a hero. Spider-Man was always my favorite. Like, for Superman and Batman, it's easy. They go out, they be heroes because it's what they are. Spider-Man and Buffy are of the type of hero that I think is much more interesting. They're the type of person where the world is kicking kicking them in the ass constantly. And they are repeatedly given reasons not to keep going on, and they do it anyway. Even when the consequences, they know the consequences of them are going to be far worse than if they just, gave up and became a waitress or stopped being Spider-Man or gave up, doing what they're doing. Eventually, they always came back and did the right thing. And that type of hero, to me, is much more interesting. And it's certainly the type of hero I'd like to write also. And not coincidentally, some of my first fiction was writing Buffy and writing Kira Nerys' oldest Deep Space Nine story. An Aaron Sun-focused Farscape novel, which is not a coincidence.
It's a hard question to go last one.
You'll start
You
first.
stole all her answers.
I agree with what everybody else is saying, but I came to Buffy late. I didn't start watching Buffy until 2004 after it was over. And it was my first binge watching experience. And I watched Angel at the right point so I would get all the good crossover. What really, aside from the premise, which is wonderful, of course, what really sucked me in and kept me watching and rewatching is not just that, and we've touched on this already, but not just that Buffy is a strong character, but that she's also not strong in a lot of ways. She's like a real person. She screws up and she has these relationships that are complicated, and despite all that stuff going on, she's still able to do what she needs to do to save the world. And I love that. I love that multi-dimensionality.
I think it's actually a perfect segue. I'm going to start with you this time so you won't feel like you're the last person answering. It's something fun. So, yeah, Joss Whedon does an amazing job creating complex, interesting characters, flawed, but they're all strong in their own special way. Buffy, physically, is the strongest out of all the females on the show, but let's just say if one day she has the flu, or remember that episode where she was under the spell that Giles put her with the test of the Slayer? You guys know what I'm talking about? Just nod your heads. Okay. So, pretend she has a bad day. How would, Willow's probably the easiest to answer, Willow, Anya, Tara kick Buffy's ass on this one day?
This is a hard question to go first. And I feel like I should let Amber answer. I think Anya would be the most interesting to think about just because her approach to nothing is obvious.
Right.
And Anya's one of my very favorite characters. And
Interesting.
I feel like she could just kind of throw herself into it. They did have, they got to have that moment where they worked each other late in the series. And Anya is very physical and passion driven, and I feel like that she would just throw herself off.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Part of the thing is that I honestly think that even if she was sick, or even if she was hobbled in whatever way, it wouldn't slow Buffy down for very long. Regardless of who she was. What would more likely to slow her down is the fact that Willow or Tara or Anya was trying to beat her up because these are her friends. But I honestly think that it's always tough to say what, who would win, Thor versus Hulk, who would win Buffy versus Faith. Part of it is because I study martial arts, and over the course of several fights between two people, one of whom is overmatched, the results will be obvious. But in one particular fight, anything can happen. And it would depend on so many different circumstances. I do know that in each of those cases, these are characters who would give it their all. Anya would, Willow would, Tara would, Buffy would. And even if they lost the fight, it wouldn't be for lack of effort.
Very diplomatic answer. Am I going to get the same answer from everyone, which is everyone's going to give it their all, in which case I'll just, go ahead.
I suppose because I cannot.
Okay, all right, next question, fine.
I think Anya would be different. I do think, because, if you think about the woman's scorn thing, and really think about it, it's kind of petty. Really, if you boil it down, it's a petty thing. And so I was thinking about this one. Guys, we cheated. They gave us the questions first. So I was thinking about it, and one of the things I kind of came up with was Ethan is kind of went along with it. I think she's just kind of pedantic her to death. Like she'd be in her closet, turning her pants inside out, stealing only the left shoes. And like taking her DVDs, removing them, and putting them in the other cases.
You win.
I
Love it. Love it. Anybody else, or I'll move on.
I like stealing all the left shoes.
You like stealing all the shoes? Okay.
I like the way you
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
What? You know, I kind of have to go with the Anya thing. I'm slightly afraid of Emma Caulfield in a positive, wonderful way. She is so unique. I always tell her that she's like Carol Lombard. I don't know if you guys are familiar with her. But she is so much like that romantic screwball comedian, and it's such a rare trait. It's so hard to do that kind of shtick, and she does it so well. So I definitely think shoes would be involved somehow. Maybe a shoe to the temple, like a little heel to the temple. Get your ass in gear kind of moment there. But I adore Emma, and it's hard for me to separate Anya from Emma because there's so many of the same qualities. I enjoy her so much. She makes me laugh in a way that nobody else does. So I think consensus rules that it's Anya. Right? Hey, sorry, Tara. I'm sorry, Amber. That's okay, Tara.
Excellent. So going back to the complex female characters that Joss creates, what do you think was Dawn's contribution to the universe of Buffy? Oh, see? Right, interesting. I mean, towards the end, she evolved into a different character than I feel she was set out to be in the first couple episodes where we met her as just the annoying sister, and then of course she was the key, and then not the key, and all these things. But what do you think we were supposed to take away from Dawn? What do you think, Buffy already had friends. She already knew the idea of sisterhood and female friendships and being the strong, capable, responsible one. So what are we supposed to take away from Dawn? Let's start in the middle. Carol.
Well, Dawn, I think, first of all, I thought it was a brilliant strategist to have Dawn show up the way she did. I think what it does is it takes the universe, the Buffyverse, and shows you that almost anything can happen. And also, the elasticity of family, and I think that's what's important for Buffy, that how we define our family isn't by blood, it's by the people we care about, that we come to care about, and Dawn is sort of a native sister.
Interesting.
Could become a real sister.
Hillary, do you want to?
I was in the camp of not a big fan of Dawn until I saw how Spike was with her. And Dawn became infinitely more interesting to me as a way for Spike to be humanized and to show empathy from a guy that up until that point was doing his anti-villain thing and being all smarmy. And then you're seeing him all of a sudden soften up because there's this kid there that needs him, and Buffy's saying to him, hey, watch my sister. So not a big fan of Dawn until the Spike angle came in, and then once that happened, I was all over Dawn. And I saw the role that she played. It was almost like Xander Light for vampires. So once that kind of clicked in my bean, I was all right.
Fair enough.
In my bean.
Keith, do you have a...
I love you too.
I actually, my answer radiates outward from Hillary's. In general, initially Buffy, I'm thinking in particular of the prom episode where she was given the award for being the protector of the school. By the time Dawn came around, Buffy didn't have as many people to protect. The rest of the Scooby Gang pretty much could handle themselves at that point. They actually did just fine when they thought she was dead. Well, she actually was dead. But Dawn, in a sense, gave everybody somebody to mentor and or protect. Not just Spike, but also Xander, Buffy. I mean, Buffy sort of transitioning from the daughter to the mother after Joyce died. And Spike, and also Willow and Tara, who were sort of the two crazy ancestors, So that, I think, that she filled that role nicely. And I also just liked the contrivance, well not contrivance, but the conception of her as, we need to, the monks had it, we need to make her into something that Buffy will protect unto death. So they retconned the sister into her life. And I just thought that was a cool concept from a plot perspective.
Michelle, what do you think?
I mean, I agree that not really anti-Buffy. Kind of makes sense. But I do think she's a really valuable position on the show because she did bring out those other qualities in Buffy that we didn't see before. And then I also was just glad that she was there when she was starting things. And Buffy didn't
interesting.
herself. And it makes me think about that idea that people come into your life at the times that you need them. That
When
was
she
really much.
laughs in the hall and get the ugly tears going.
Tom, do you have anything?
You know what? I never had to write the character, so that.
Yeah. So you really.
And
That's okay. I'd rather you say nothing than talk in circles about Amber.
Well, I mean, I kind of came at it from a different perspective because when Michelle came on board, we were really excited to have her because she's just a sweetheart. She was so much fun. She was so young. She had this excitement about the show because she was a fan of the show. So, I mean, like, she would put all of you guys to shame. She would go, so, and that episode that you did, what was that about? I don't know. I didn't write it. I don't know. She was just such a fan of the show. So for me, when there was like backlash against the character and the fact that she was sort of thrust into it mid-show, I sort of felt the opposite. I wanted to protect her. I felt a very maternal thing going on. Like, but it's the show. She was such a sweet, talented, wonderful kid at the time. Who then got taller than me and started dating boys, and that was very upsetting.
So I feel like over the years, the consensus is hated Donna at first. With time, people softened their views, and now they embraced her as part of the Scooby Gang.
We all remember Cousin Oliver.
And you, Brady Bunch reference. Yes, right? I had a moment of panic.
Cousin Oliver, it's okay, you're better off.
Okay. Okay. All right, so we talked about a few kick-ass heroines. I'm also going to go to the flip side, which is beta heroes, because someone touched, I think, did we talk about Spike softening? Was it Michelle? Okay, yeah. So I have very mixed feelings with Spike, and I know some people fucking love him. Like, I hate him. I can't stand him. He's skin crawl. He tried to rape Buffy. He tried to rape Buffy. I can't get over that. So, we're going to talk about Xander and Oz for a brief moment. We can talk about Spike in a second. But again, what Joss Whedon does really well is writing these interesting characters that we don't normally see at that time in mainstream TV or film. So, to me, Xander and I think Oz are considered beta heroes, and you can disagree with me, right? But yet they have like a large fan base. What do you? There's Angel, of course. Everyone loves Angels. But I think there were definitely people pulling for Xander to eventually be Buffy's boyfriend. No? For these beta heroes when it seems it should be contrary, that it's always alpha heroes that we talk about, but yet Xander and Oz get so much love.
Well, they're both really attractive. I mean, you spend time with Nick and Seth, and you just fall in love with them. They're so sweet and kind of edgy too in their way, and adorable, right? So, I mean, I think everyone has a soft spot for those characters because of I think the writing and also because of the actors that played them. It was a combo of the two. But I've never been one to get all hot and bothered over Superman. I was always a Clark Kent kind of girl. So just say.
I think it's a humor.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point. Yes. The intelligence and the humor. Yeah, Angel didn't really have a great sense of humor. You're right. Smoldering eyes, but no sense of humor. Okay. Yes, I agree.
Please do not throw your programs at me. I didn't like Xander. I understand the role that he was Riley. When Riley's out at a vampire whorehouse,
I hate
and then
Riley
he
too.
dresses her down. Xander's the one who dresses her down afterwards, like it's her fault because she was so consumed with her dying mother. And Xander takes it upon himself to basically tell Buffy why she's a jerk and why, well, maybe you should have been around for her. Well, shut up! I think Oz is your sweet guy. I don't know that he's a slapsticky, but he was the drive humor guy in a way.
Yeah.
Like he was adorable. Like I just wanted a miniature to put on my dashboard and drive around. I loved him, but I did have a hard time with Xander. I appreciate why others like him, but personally for me, he spent a whole lot of time doing the wrist slapping on Buffy, and I'm not so keen.
I was going to say Xander's favorite.
Now you shamed us into liking Xander.
No, I don't need to. It's just,
No, I'm kidding.
I expect everybody to believe me.
What I really like is I like to have I wouldn't have wanted a romantic story at all with those characters. I like that there's a friendship with males. And we don't always have
Yes.
every
That's
male
a really
that
good
I
point.
want to see is a triangle, where everybody's going to fall in love with. And I think that we see things from the point of view of the every guy, the normal guy, and I think that was probably important of the show. And I love the episode Zeppo where we see everything from his and everything that we see Buffy and Angel fighting, having their drama, and that's all it is. It's like this drama, and suddenly we can see what the show is like from this character, from the other. Maybe from what it would be like for us if we went to Sunnydale and just happened to see people in the hallway fighting monsters.
I think one of the reasons why those characters in particular are appealing is because they were allowed to have a level of complexity that allowed Celery to hate him that much, and that, and for that matter,
Such a
make
strong
them.
word. Mildly disapprove.
Fair enough. And for that matter, why May doesn't like Spike as much, because these are characters who could very easily have been one-note stereotypes.
Yes.
Anybody here watch Avatar: The Last Airbender? Xander could very easily have just been the neat and sarcasm guy. He could have been Sokka, but he was more than that. Sokka was more than that too, yes. But I just like the line neat and sarcasm guy, and it applies just as well to Xander as it does to Sokka. But he had those complexities. He had, we discovered that he had serious issues with, at the very least, psychological, if not physical abuse by his father. And Oz had more depth of character. For that matter, Angel just could have been, the pretty boy James Dean stand-in that he was initially, but he got to be more complex than that. Spike could have just been the bad boy, and he developed. All of them had complexity and layers that made them more interesting, made them into more well-rounded people. They weren't always likable people. What pissed me off about Xander was when he left Anya at the altar.
Yes.
I totally understood.
Yes.
From a character perspective, I totally understood why he did it, but I thought that was like the one step too far that I really didn't want, that I hated seeing him take. And yet, again, it was still true to his character. So that, I think, is why those characters, in particular the ones that we got on Buffy, and also on Angel, Wesley developed into that kind of character as well on Angel, are because they're allowed a level of complexity that sidekick characters don't often get. So.
I'm mad about the wedding because I had to wear that crappy bridesmaid's dress.
Sorry.
Yeah, the wedding episode is one of the two that I will not watch.
Yeah.
I will not watch unless they're together. Wow. But it's interesting to have the differences of opinion among the panelists, because what I love about Xander is that I hate him and I love him. Like, there are
You hate what?
I hate Xander, I really do. But then there are moments when I absolutely love him. Like, I love that I to everybody else. I mean, his ability to remain calm, despite everything, was so different from everybody else's reactions. Everybody had their purpose, and it was very, very important.
Are they always like this? No, sometimes militonic.
I'm torn because I feel like there's how many questions as I think I'm going to wrap this up, and then there's going to be a special surprise for the audience, which is a chance to win some books and answer some Buffy trivia questions. And I think okay. All right, so I'm going to ask one question, and then we'll have a Buffy trivia. So I'm just going to ask this. It took over 10 years. It's been over 10 years for the show, and at the time it was the most interesting, pushing the envelope show on TV at the time. Lesbian relationship, gay relationship, period. Forget a lesbian relationship, just any complex gay relationship. The death of a mother on the show, and explored in a very realistic way. Very creatively different. Hush, the episode where almost no dialogue was spoken. The musical episode. And how different the show was, and how there were certain shows people were just talking about. But do you think if the show were to air today in this format, the exact same episode would still be a hold-up show? Or do you feel like in the last 10 years it spawned so many Buffy inspirations that this is now staid and boring? And what I'm saying is, do you think Buffy the Vampire Slayer still holds up?
Because I mentioned that the late 90s was a great era for strong female characters. The 2010s aren't. It's just not as. Yeah. We're not seeing the same level that we got 15 years ago.
Right.
And we can use a more of that, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, we have time for one more question because I want to know what you guys think. Spike. Does everyone love him on this panel, or are we?
Speaking as someone who's written Spike in this book, Blackout, which is well, I actually got to write it in, the book takes place in 1977 in New York when he went after Nikki Wood, so there's a lot of Nikki Wood in it. Basically, this book is, if Buffy had been created by Gordon Parks in the 70s instead of Joss Whedon in the 90s, this is what it would have been like. And writing Spike in his punk phase was so much fun. Leaving aside what you think of him as a character, he gets all the best lines. He starts people off all the time. He's tremendous. He's just a fun character to watch and to create dialogue for. Even however you feel about him as a character, he's such an energizing presence. Thank you. I think that's why the character was only originally supposed to be in half the season. And he stuck around through the end, all the way to the end of the spin-off, just from the sheer power of the charisma that the character has.
Interesting. Michelle?
I was not a fan of Spike in the beginning. When I was first watching these back, this was pre-streaming, so it was DVDs, and I would see Spike's face on the future season DVD covers, and I was like, seriously? But I really came around to him in the end, and then I enjoyed him on Agent too. So he was another character who sometimes I hated and sometimes I loved, and then I felt for him during his whole transformation period. I thought that was really well done. So I ultimately came out pro Spike.
Carol?
I think I'm a pretty big Spike fan.
Oh.
The character is, I think, remarkable, and he used to have tea with Joyce.
Hot chocolate with marshmallows, yes.
Lady always had a taco for me.
Hillary?
I think Spike was necessary. I don't necessarily know that. I don't know that I can really attribute good or bad because the whole rape thing. It just squashes my feminist heart. But I think he's necessary because most of Buffy's foils, with the exception of Faith, were very clearly foils. Whereas Spike had to walk that line of ambiguity. You don't know what you're going to get with Spike from episode to episode. And I think that made the character stay on her toes in a way that, Willow and Tara are very loving presences, and Xander is your goofy sidekick. But he's always there. He's loyal. He's like her dog. He's always there. And Angel, you're going to get brooding and gorgeous. Spike, you don't know what is going to come your way, and I felt that he kept the energy high. So while I can't necessarily say I loved him for personal agenda reasons, I can say that I appreciate the role that he played, and I felt that he was a necessary part of the show.
He was always best when he was evil. I think that's he never better when he was with Priscilla.
Yeah.
I don't know, I got to try the coat on once, it was pretty exciting. He was always, I just always had so much fun with James. He's such a, they're all so nice, like it was such a nice, it's like kind of a little family, you know? But he was always so much fun, and he always like, he was lying backwards forwards, he didn't roar lines. He was always on, and even when he was being like, he wasn't a method, or he was like, in things, need you, when he was playing a bad version of Spike. He was always James and sweet, but he could turn on a dime. He just turned it on, that whatever that charisma that character had, and it's palpable, you know. Even when you were a student, they were like, whoa, okay now. I think I am playing a lesbian in this show. Now I'm uncertain.
You changed me. Great, well, thank you. Now let's start with the Buffy trivia portion of the show. So each panelist come up with a couple of questions, and I hope, or just make one up now. Okay. You can take someone else's book. Or you can high five.
I'll take your address and I'll send it.
Aww. That's so nice.
Talk to my wife.
Okay. Who wants to go first? And when you ask a question, you guys will pick a person randomly that you want to answer the question. Okay.
Everybody else is gonna hate you.
Or I can okay. Okay, I'll pick it. All right. Amber, do you want to go first?
Oh, sure, why not?
Why not?
Are you gonna pick your person?
No, whoever wants to answer the what you know, like answer. Right.
I've been here all day, you guys. I smell like an armpit. All right, so I decided to go with something Tara-centric since I know her the best out of all of them. In the musical episode, Tara and Anya back up Buffy while she's having her big song, and Tara does something at the end of the song that I did not think anybody saw, but apparently the editor thought was really funny and included it.
Okay, that girl in the red dress needs to know the answer.
You want me to say?
Yep.
She's just like a Priscilla, guys.
All right, this is kind of a two-parter, especially since I have to get off my ass to go to the post office. What is Jonathan's last name? Are you ready for a two-part? You want to get the text? What do you want the next part of the question? Okay. And where did that last name come from?
Oh, he is just like, damn. I just saw this and then this. This and then this. How about just the first one? Well, this person there can answer the first one.
Yeah, that's right. Do you know where that came from? We should give it to her anyway. Can I tell you where it came from? Chris Golden's childhood. Chris Golden gave Jonathan's last name, and Chris Golden's best friend was Lainey Levinson. He named the character after her. Grade school best friend.
Hillary, do you want to ask your question in the meantime?
I kind of got stumped on this. So, as a horror author, I did have a question that I figured I'd ask is, can anybody do a gentleman childhood rhyme from the episode? If you can. But as a horror author, I feel I have to bring up.
The guy in the blue in the back had his hand up. Sorry, lady in white. You got it. Carol, what's your question? It was your publicist. It's okay. It's okay. We can come back later or not at all. No worries. I'm sure Keith has 5.
I don't have something to give away, but if you come to booth 1157, which is my booth, no, these are my shelf copies, the only ones I have left. I didn't know I was supposed to. Okay, all right. Or and because of. Okay. So mine is sort of also a 2-part question. Spike has killed 2 Slayers. He has keepsakes from both of them in some form or other. What are they?
What is that? D? What is that thing? Oh, it's a sight. That sight went up first.
The jacket from Nikki and the scarf from the
Yeah, she never got a name. But yeah.
Yay.
Gotta encourage Nicole. She's writing her first, I would say, young adult, possibly urban fantasy-esque, awesome book.
Michelle, what's your question?
What was the name of Buffy's nice science teacher who was killed in teacher's pet?
Do you know the... You don't know it?
I do.
I watched it 4 days ago is not the answer. Do you know the answer?
Is it Gregory?
Yeah. Exactly, we're on time, yes? Yeah, maybe not. Okay, I want to thank my amazing panelists. You guys, I learned stuff today about Buffy. I really did. Please go to the autographing afterwards. It's from 6 to 7 p.m. near the Word Bookstore, right around the corner from the autographing area, table 19. Is this right?
I will have copies of the Sleepy Hollow book there for sale.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.